What's up? That's the best one. What's up? Two glasses boys here in Vegas, rocking our glasses, feeling smarter, raising our IQ. God damn, does it feel good to be smart. And what we want to talk about in this video is the enemy revealed.
Who's the enemy?
The worst enemy, the one person who is fucking your life up and fucking you up.
We're gonna unveil them right now.
Can you guess?
We're gonna expose the enemy.
Who's the enemy?
Is it the Illuminati?
The government?
Is it your dad?
Your mom?
Your sister?
Your brother?
Your enemy?
Your friend?
Who is your enemy?
I think it's the government. Psych, it's you!
It's you! You're your worst enemy!
No! God, please, no! No! No!
That little voice in your head, your thoughts, you are your own worst enemy. Now you might be thinking, not me. I don't know what you're saying, fuck this video, you're about to click off. Don't, because guess what? That little voice saying click off, that's the enemy.
When you look at the people around you, people commenting on this video, people you see commenting online, people who are driving you around in Ubers, people who you're working with, colleagues, things like that, and you look at them, does it occur to you that they could actually maybe look inwardly at the quality of their thinking, that they could be wrong about some things? Well, then the bigger question is, why do you assume that you should trust in your own thoughts? And what we want to do in this video is break it down within a few different contexts. One is kind of the spiritual jargon, we call it high vibration or low vibration energy, but also things like success ceiling, success barriers, or status anxiety. Also things like ego maintenance or identity maintenance, or things like just being lazy or bad social conditioning, or identities that you're trying to be consistent to, and really how all these different factors are messing up the quality of your thinking. But then from there, how can we train ourselves to have a very high quality of thinking to where you are no longer your worst enemy and you can trust yourself? This topic of trusting your thoughts has become a recent obsession of ours, because everything from seeing friends of ours just completely obliterate themselves, and these are really smart people, and we watched this for many years, different people doing this, but also even in our own lives, seeing where even though we have a degree of success, we're still hitting success walls ourselves, because yeah, it's great that you're having some success, but at the same time, the potential is so much higher. Just seeing that and seeing it in other people has really triggered me to turn around that mirror and put it back on myself. Because, like, you know, ultimately you can see what other people are doing, but that should just be an example of what you yourself may be doing. It doesn't really matter what other people are doing. You want to put the focus on yourself. So whenever I see somebody highly intelligent screwing themselves up, I ask myself the question right off the bat, where's my area? Where's the version of that that I have? So other humans' failures that we so readily see, like, oh, they're fucking up. They're fucking up.
Pinpoint a ton now. It's like, who's fucking up? You're like, oh, all these people, not me.
Very easy. Very easy to see when other people are fucking up, because it feels good. You actually get good emotions when other people are fucking up, right? Like in reality TV shows, people watch it just to see other fuck ups so they can feel good about themselves. But recognizing that in yourself is actually very, very painful. So that being the case, it can be really, really hard to see your own failures, because whenever you see your own failures, it lowers your confidence. And whenever you lower your confidence, you lose status within your tribe, because people can see that you've lost confidence. So we actually have an evolutionary mechanism that makes it difficult oftentimes for us to see our own failures or the low quality elements in our own thinking. Now, that being the case, what I like to do is have a model in my mind and say to myself, what are the different areas that are causing people to have these fuck ups? So one of them, which we'll go into right now, is something that Julian covers in depth in Transformation Mastery, which in spiritual jargon, and you can go with this jargon or you can't, it really doesn't matter, but at least know the idea of it, high vibration or low vibration energy. Now, whether you're into the energy aspect of it or not, the basic way to understand it is that sometimes you're very present to the moment and in an optimistic state and an empowered and resourceful state, and other times you're in a very pessimistic and shut down, negative, non-resourceful state. And this is something that we've observed for years in success with women, because sometimes you go out and it's just so easy to talk to everybody. It's the easiest thing in the world to talk to everybody in that venue, and you're like, I feel great about myself, I'm the best guy in the world, this is so easy. Why did I ever even make this hard? Why do I even have to learn this? It's so simple. And then other times, it's almost like you're in this weird, like, bad acid trip where everything seems so impossible to talk to anybody, and then that becomes a, quote, self-fulfilling prophecy, and everybody runs away from you. Did you have that massive, you must have had that experience. I don't really talk to you about it that much, but...
I've had it like maybe once or twice, I think.
Okay.
Not that much. But no, I mean, that's like one area, but even like recording a video like this, there's sometimes where you just show up and it's smooth, and other times where it's a fucking grind, you're in your head, it requires so much effort, it's so heavy, The same with going to work. Sometimes you're working and it's just, things just make sense, you know, it clicks. And other times it's so fucking heavy. It's a drag and everything feels against you. Okay, high vibration, low vibration, abundance, scarcity, these different states, these different paradigms you can find yourself in. And one thing you can do, and we were talking about this, is do an audit. Okay, this is like a first little action step. An audit on the thoughts you have when you're in this higher state, the perspectives, the opinions, just what that voice is saying when you're in that higher state versus that lower state. You know, when you're having fun, it's like, you know, like say right now, we're just fucking around. I'm not thinking, what are people thinking of me? What do I look like? Do the glasses look cool enough? Do I really look smarter?
You're thinking that, but he just bought these. He's very excited about it.
No, I'm thinking, of course I look smarter. No, but it's true. It's like there's not that same little concern. Little things don't trigger you so much. You're not focused on the little petty shit around you. So making a list of like the type of thoughts you have when you're in this higher state. So just look at your life right now. Say this past week, the best time of that week, the time where you're just like, things make sense. The times where you feel good. What's that voice telling you? Then do another audit when you're in this lower state, you know, say low vibration or scarcity. What are the thoughts then? You know, and you can usually catch this too when you get very tired. Mm-hmm. Like I used to.
And by the way, we have to record right here because Julian's favorite brand is Gucci, so we're literally going to move here to keep recording.
This is my great grandfather's brand. He founded it. I do like it, but only because Lil Pump is a big Gucci fan.
I got this shit cause it's Gucci birthday, bit free walk, bit on folk now, free walk, man, free walk, bit free walk, man. All I know is free walk, bit.
Lil Pump. But no, for real, the on travel, like I noticed I get tired, and at first I'm like, this is awesome, I'm traveling to, and then say you grind a little too hard, you get burnt out. And then that voice would turn to, this sucks, oh my God. And I'd start noticing little things that I didn't mind before. I'm like, look at this, I don't know about this hotel room. Why am I not in a better hotel room? How did this happen? Oh, why is it booked so fucking far away from the venue thing when you're in this high state, it really doesn't matter at all. It's like all those petty things, like your mind just boom, 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 boom. And then it's like, you should do this, you should complain more, you should think this, you deserve better. And the voice suddenly would change.
So the main practice here is tracking the thoughts and being hyper aware of exactly how you feel in a high state and exactly how you feel in a low state. And we're gonna make a distinction here you'd rarely hear anywhere else. And I don't know why, because to me it's just so obvious. But you have the degree of low vibration trauma energy or negative energy that you're carrying. So everybody's carrying their burden of low vibration energy that tends to infect their thoughts. But simultaneously, there's also the degree, and here's the key, there's also the degree to which you are identified or duped by the negative energy. So for example, I know a lot of people that are very negative, but they're aware how that negativity is affecting them, and so they're not gonna make decisions on that negativity versus, for example, the mother of my kids, she's a hilarious example. One of the most high vibration creatures I've ever met in my entire life. That's why I gravitated to her originally, is that she's really just one of the single most positive people on the planet. But what's really funny is a couple areas where the low vibration energy gets into her head, she gets totally identified, and you'll just see her like flustered, like, and I'm like, really? I'm like, you're not really in this, are you? And she's like, because even that little bit of negative energy that she carries, it dupes her easily. So you want to get to the point where whatever amount of negative energy that you're carrying, it doesn't dupe you very easily, because the duping is what makes you act on it. A very simple example that I think anybody could relate to is sending a company-wide email. And I'm 38 as recording this, but I remember back when I was 22, 23, 24, and I get really pissed off, and I could feel myself being consumed with negativity. I would send these company-wide emails where I'd start bitching somebody out publicly, or I'd start bitching about, to the whole team about things. And the really key thing to notice here is that there's an energy.
Or to provoke people to bitch together, by the way. So it's not even you bitching, it's you saying something that you know will like trigger other people, and then it'll just create this bitching shitstorm.
Well, what's funny is that you logically know, but then at the same time, because logically speaking, surely when you send a bitching email, you're not gonna have everyone go, great point.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, thanks for fucking shitting on me. They're just gonna start bitching back and become defensive. They're gonna get triggered. But in the moment, you don't even know what you're doing, or you tell yourself a story that's like, this just needs to be said. This needs to be said. And I always say that there's probably about 1 time in 10 when the bitching wide email actually does make sense. I think, but ironically, it is that 1 time in 10 when it would make sense that fools you the 9 other times. Now, the way that I learned this was seeing the response on the emails, but also actually, when we were coming up, I was always participating on chat forums. And so I'd be on different chat forums, and I remember, and you can see this today on things like RC Nation or other chat forums, where, you know, or Facebook groups, where what happens is one guy posts something to trigger the other people reading it, and then when other people respond back, they trigger each other, and everybody starts triggering each other. And when you're older and you know what's happening, it's kind of funny to look at, to realize that those people don't know what they're doing. I'm going to see it even in YouTube comments, but those people are simply unaware of what they're doing. And so I would see that, and I remember, here's what would happen. Somebody would send me a criticism, and I would write back this like 15-page manifesto on why this is bullshit and why I'm right. And the funny thing was, every time I posted it, people sensing the negative energy contained within the writing would post back, picking apart what I'm saying, and then I'd feel more in low vibration energy and negative and angry, and then I would charge the pendulum, send it back. They would charge 15 pendulums, send it back, and it would keep, it's like this charged pendulum of negativity going back and forth. Now, what I trained myself to do, the simple practice, was write out the negative, condescending, antagonistic post or email or post, and then I would save it. And the next day when I'd wake up with a clear head, because for whatever reason, whenever you're annoyed, you usually will wake up feeling clear. Also, the downside is a lot of time if you go to bed feeling awesome, you kind of wake up feeling around normal, right? Like if you're down here, you wake up feeling here. If you're up here, you kind of wake up feeling here in most cases. So I'd wake up and I would reread what I'd wrote, and I'm like, why did I write this? And then I'd just write some short little one-sentence thing, and it would always make more sense. So since that time, I've definitely cleared, doing a lot of the type of stuff Julian teaches in Transformation Mastery, I've cleared a lot of that negativity. I don't carry that anymore. That's really cool. But I certainly still carry some negative energy. But here's the key, is that I've learned to be aware of when it's running me, and so I'm not as identified with that negative energy anymore. So when I feel myself in that state, what I do is I wait a day to respond, okay? Or I wait until the negative energy or the charge is gone, and then I can communicate in a rational way. Or sometimes, if I feel confident enough, I will actually kind of move through that haze or fog of negative energy that's hijacking my thoughts, and I'll remind myself what I would normally write or respond with, usually something short and not antagonistic, and then I just do that. Yeah. And it's funny because on the forums, actually, people often comment like, man, all these like antagonistic fucking assholes like saying shit to Owen, and he just like responds calmly. Well, that's, and one of these days someone's gonna get me on this, like,
Aaron's gonna respond calmly.
I'm asking for it now, and I'm sure I'll fail at some point. I hope not, but I probably will. But you know, because everyone has their day, right? But basically, it's because I've learned, look, these people are actually talking to you. They probably do like you if they're talking to you. It's just that they're kind of in that state too. And there's something very powerful when you learn to actually diffuse that charge by being neutral. I mean, that could be a whole other video, just how to diffuse negative energy. It's actually a very powerful thing. But that's one of those areas where, again, you have the degree of low vibration, negative energy or heavy energy that you're carrying that's in you, but then there's this other channel of how much you're identified to it, how much it dupes you.
You know you're hijacked when, instead of being proactive about it and having your intention being, I'm gonna fix this, when it's taken over, your response is disproportionate to reality. You're freaking out more than you should, and your intention is to, you know, poke at that or amplify that versus actually fix the problem. You don't even want to fix the problem because you just want to keep fueling what's going on inside.
Oh yeah, I mean, you'll see that because when somebody is triggered and then they're coming at you and you keep offering solutions, it actually makes them more infuriated because they're not getting their hit of negativity. And what I'd like you to do is not only track your highest thinking and your lowest thinking, but I'd also like you to track your reactions when you do get negative and then compare those over, say, a 1 year or 5 year period. So let's say that right now you're 27. Anything bad that happens this year, write it down or even make a video of how much you're freaking out. And then from there, when you're about 32 or 33, it's been about 5 years, take note of how utterly irrelevant it is, how you barely even remember it, and that will also allow you to keep a lot more centered. And really key here is also that whenever you're getting triggered or getting negative or having a freak out, be aware that what your mind's gonna do, the low vibration energy is gonna trick you because it's gonna pick things that are real and are legitimate in most cases. But what it's gonna do is it's going to obscure the larger context.
Yeah.
So buddies of mine who I've seen like really fuck up their shit, whenever they're freaking out, it's usually right what they're freaking out about, but what they're doing is they're obscuring the larger context of how awesome this moment in time is, or all the other really positive things they could be emphasizing. So it de-emphasizes those, and then it overly emphasizes the negative thing, and it makes it feel so utterly relevant, but really what it's trying to do is give you that fucking hit of low vibration energy, which essentially is keeping you locked in place into whatever energetic reality you are currently experiencing or addicted to. And that in and of itself, about how we move through different energetic realities, are addicted to them, find other people to reinforce them, find situations that will reinforce them. I mean, that could be a 20-hour seminar complete with infield footage and interviews and all sorts of stuff. But from here,
Coming soon.
okay, coming soon. We totally should. But then going even deeper from there, we can actually correlate this to success barriers. And if you ever read the book, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, what he talks about is your success ceiling. And this is really all through self-help. And any great self-help teacher actually tries to hammer you through a success ceiling. And what that is that your mind is terrified that if you gain too much success, you would get haters, jealousy, complex situations that you are not emotionally adapted to deal with. And so essentially what your mind will do is trick you out of things that could help your life. And look, I experienced this particularly in working on, say, success with women, when I go out and I might meet a girl who feels a little bit out of my league, and I start to freak out and I start to mess it up. Or whenever I was creating, say, the blueprint, and I create a new chapter that was so incredible, I knew that my career would be different forever, and then I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. Or I'll create some video that's so incredible, I get too nervous to edit it and release it, and I start getting this weird like adrenaline kick, and then I start getting distracted, and I find that I start focusing on all these other random things to prevent me from getting the video or content out, or from like just having a fun time with that girl that wants to hang out with me, and I just distract myself and mess myself up out of it. And what's going on here is that your mind is actually afraid of you increasing in status, because it's afraid that in a caveman tribe, if your status increased, you'd be at threat of getting a rock smashed over your head or getting lynch mobbed.
It also really has to do, as we mentioned in the beginning of this video, with trying to preserve your identity. So on one hand, if you blast past one of those ceilings, you know, there's a lot of status, a lot of risk, you think you're gonna die. But on the other hand too, it might challenge the identity that you're unconsciously attached to and identified with. You know, the identity you've taken on from, say, a young age, you've been acting from, reinforcing your entire life. On that identity, there's all these other assumptions that are built on it, and if you, say, challenge an assumption, like you do something that's a little outside that identity, and it works, that you succeed, suddenly it means that that identity can no longer hold. And if you lose that identity, you lose everything that's built on it, everything crumbles, and you're left with a big unknown.
Yeah, and one of the most powerful forces in human psychology is to be consistent to what we believe is our identity that other people know us for, because that identity or personality that we're known for, if people have accepted it, then that's a way to not get killed in your caveman tribe. And so if you act outside that personality, there's an evolutionary fear built in that another caveman could come and kill us.
Yeah. Yeah, well, not just that, it's also just all you know. You know, like for me, I talk about this in so many videos, like the self-destructive artist. Like, if that's all I know from a young age, and say I become too successful and I'm no longer self-destructive, then what am I, you know? And not just the identity, you trying to preserve that identity, but also the emotional addictions, where, say, you know, you're someone who really wants like a girl or wants to make a lot of money, and you fantasize about that. Like, I remember when I was younger, I'd fall, it sounds so emo, but it was emo. I would fall asleep at night. This one was like, you know, 14, 15. And I'd listen to like these like emo songs and think about girls in my class. Like, one day when I get Sally, when I get Susie. It wasn't really Sally and Susie because it was Switzerland. But one day when I get that girl, and I'd fantasize and fantasize and keep thinking about when I get her, when I get her, when I get her. But then, of course, like, my mind's not going to let me get her, because if I do get her, I can't fantasize anymore. And I can't get that emotional hit.
Look at yourself, Jordan. Sick.
So what you're seeing here is an emphasis on self-awareness and tracking yourself, because essentially you're in this maze of your own mind, and unless you become aware of what your mind is doing through tracking it and through becoming very conscious of what your mind and body is doing to you, you will believe that these things that are happening to you, that you're at the effect of them, rather than realizing that you're at the cause, that essentially all this stuff that's going on inside of you is actually triggering a lot of your perception, and then triggering how events are playing out in the outside world, and then it feels so freaking real. And that's something that I want to emphasize here, is how real it feels. Now, the next one that I want you to track and this is, I've mentioned this before, but you can't talk about this too many times, is how your body is always trying to achieve emotional homeostasis, and essentially you are addicted to emotions the way that somebody who's hooked on heroin is hooked on heroin, or someone who's hooked on crack is hooked on crack. You're hooked on your emotions. And the way that I put this to you is that every single day you're gonna be happy around a certain amount of the time. You're gonna be sad around a certain amount of the time. You're gonna laugh a certain amount. You're gonna be sad and pissed off and angry a certain amount. Now, obviously there's exceptions to this. There could be a horrible, horrible day that's much worse than usual, and there could be an amazing day that's much better than usual. So you'll have a degree of deviation. But for the most part, I want you to think of any of your friends that you have. And if you know them well and you've taken the time to really observe them, you can predict what kind of mood they're gonna be in at different times of the day and how they're gonna react to different things based on their emotional addictions. Like, Julian, I've known you for a long time.
No one can predict me.
Okay. So other than Father Jay, like when you know someone well, you're gonna be able to predict them. I mean, you know me, you know roughly at this point how I'm gonna act and what I'm gonna be like in various situations. It's incredibly predictable.
I do want to mention too, just how repetitive this is. You know, we think every day is a new day, but no, you're really living Groundhog's Day. Like, tomorrow might be different. Let's hope for it to be different. It's the exact same thing. You wake up, same worries, same emotions. If you're someone who experiences anxiety a lot, it kicks in. And not just that, but then it also affects your focus. You know, you start filtering the world through this. So say right now we're hanging out on this little bridge. If you're in this state of anxiety most of the time, you're gonna pick up on all these things like, oh man, are people dangerous? Are people out to get me here? Oh my God, what about this? Ooh, I don't know, it's nighttime. Oh, we're standing out with the light. You're gonna focus on that. If you're someone who's pissed off all the time, you'd be like, it's fucking cold. Look at this shit, people walking so close. Oh, God damn it. I don't know about the shot. Like complaining. If you're someone who's happy, you're gonna start being like, oh, look at this, it's awesome. We're in fucking Vegas, filming, doing something we love, expressing ourselves. And you seek things to reinforce that. So the next thing to understand is your RAS, okay, your selective focus, where if you look around you, there's just way too much information, too much to take in. You could be watching this on your phone right now, you're looking at us, and focus just for fun on a little corner side of your phone. Notice all the little details. You know, you didn't notice it before, but now you did. It came into your focus. So because there's just way too much to take in, we have this little mechanism, your RAS, you can Google it.
Yeah, you like really Google RAS and spend the next week observing RAS, reticular activation system. If you got nothing else out of this video, go do that.
Yeah, Google it, and basically what's gonna happen is you're gonna start filtering out, as I mentioned before, people, situations, things, in a way to reinforce current beliefs, current assumptions, to reinforce what you're thinking in the moment, what you're feeling in the moment. You know, to keep that going, to keep it alive. So if you're angry, you'll usually notice like something will piss you off, and suddenly you'll start focusing on everything else that pisses you off. You're gonna find people that'll help reinforce you being pissed off.
Or your shitty version of people, your shitty view of the world.
Well, yeah, even on a more general scale, like the people you hang out with, that most likely fulfills a certain emotional addiction. You know, people will get pissed off, hang out with other people who get pissed off, and they will seek each other out.
It's called a low vibration energy circuit.
And you can see it too, especially in relationships. Like when people are really hooked on drama, they will find a way, you know? Or if you read a lot on, you know, say narcissism, I mean, it's insane how you see this in relationship. Like there's one narcissistic person in the relationship, and they will find each other and start triggering each other, and it becomes like this loop of a relationship.
When somebody is addicted to a shitty reality, they will seek out and only seek out someone who will treat them like shit. And you'll see these incredibly attractive people who find a partner that will treat them like shit. And when you ask them, like say you see some really attractive man or woman, and they're like, my last 5 partners did this and this and this to me. And you're like, how did you find the needle in the haystack of someone who's that much of a dickhead, or, you know, that much of a bitch to do that? It's like, I don't even know people like that. How did you find them?
Just in terms of tracking here too, look at the type of friends that you keep gravitating to. Look at the patterns in your life. You know, people think if I move, I'll finally be the cool person with my friends, but you keep creating the same things over and over again. What are the patterns in your life? Write that down, start tracking it. And with RAS2, you're gonna focus on people that fulfill those emotional addictions, and you will not see people who don't fulfill them. And it's crazy. It's like, why don't I find someone nice? you don't see them. And when you actually start working on yourself and getting out of this little trap of your mind, you start letting go, freeing yourself from, say, you know, these patterns, this trap. What you'll see in relationships is, say you're with someone who's like really hooked on drama and you're going back and forth, you're gonna stop relating so much to that, and that person, because they can't get their hit from you, will also stop relating to you. And you will lose attraction for each other. They will find someone else where they can go back and forth with, and then you will finally see and resonate with someone who isn't hooked on that.
I've lost people essentially who have gone into negativity, okay? In my mind, I call that I've lost them to low vibration energy. The LVE came out and just took them. They're still there on this earth, but it just took them away to where I can't relate anymore. And you probably had that yourself. Maybe you've even done that yourself. But funny enough, if someone actually has been taken by low vibration energy, they probably can't watch this video. Yep. They'll shut it off too quickly.
Again, your RIS won't pick up.
Yeah, RIS skews it. So what you have is, I've had experiences where I've lost someone to low vibration energy. Take that girl, right? And then I would be curious, like, I wonder if I was ever really sad about something, if I could call her and we would talk normal again. And here's what was going on. Try to really follow this. So because in general, I'm usually laughing and having fun, once she went down, whenever we would hang out, back in the day, towards the end, she could get those little kicks of low vibration energy addiction off of me. She could get the emotional addiction of negativity from me, because she would kind of yell at me and I would kind of snap back and it would kind of go back and forth. But I hit a point where I was like, I'm no longer snapping back, I'm just gonna joke around and laugh. And what's funny is, because she couldn't get her fix, she would ratchet it up and ratchet it up and ratchet up. I mean, if you're not careful, if you're engaged with somebody like this, you'll come back and your fucking house will be burned down. You'll get back, they've burnt down the house. They're like, now you're gonna give me my fix? Because they've gone so fucking crazy. So I remember it hit a certain point where my and her interactions, basically just me laughing, having fun, and her just mad all the time because she's trying to provoke me and she can't get her hit.
Yeah.
So I remember I finally called her when I was sad, and you know what was weird? Because I called her when sad, I think I had another breakup later, right? Like a year and a half or so later. And I called her up sad, and it was the first time that her and I had a normal conversation. Like, it was this totally civil. Now, I didn't tell her I was sad. I didn't even sound sad. But because I was more in like a sad state, all of a sudden we had the ability to connect, because I had entered into her world. I had entered into her energetic reality, so she doesn't need to provoke me anymore. And if you start tracking this, it will blow your fucking mind.
So building on this concept of RAS, what we want to talk about now is the RAS flip. And this really explains a lot of what goes on in cheating, breakups, whether it's romantic partners, friendships, business partners, where, say, for example, you're dating someone and you start, getting a little less out of the relationship. There's not that same value. Your DNA kicks in. It's like, hey, you got to get out of there. You got to find a partner where there is more value. You're going to feel a little bit bad. You're like, well, I don't really want to fuck this person over. And what's going to happen is your RAS is going to kick in. And instead of focusing on all the amazing things about your partner, suddenly you're going to start noticing, ugh, you know what? My partner chews a little loud. You know what, my partner, they were a little late for this thing, all the little bad things. And you're going to focus more and more on this to justify, say, cheating or leaving the person, and to not feel so bad about it. You'll rationalize it like, oh, it was their fault. Fucking chewing with their mouth open, fuck that person, I'm out.
As a guy in the dating scene, when I'm single, oftentimes I'll meet a girl and I won't know that she has a boyfriend. And what you'll see is that because she's thinking of cheating on him with me, I've seen it to where she starts noticing all these bad things about her boyfriend that she never noticed before. And funny enough, I've also seen it when a girl's about to dump me, and I can predict it because all of a sudden all those things that never used to bother her start to bother her, right? Like, say that I'm going bald. Well, not say I'm going bald. That never bothered her before because I had the value. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, as I begin to lose status or value in her eyes, it's like, I kind of just like guys with hair. Or, I remember a girl I'm dating, and I'm kind of fat right now. And she always like, you have a Buddha belly. It's so cute. It's all mine. It's my Buddha belly. But then when she's thinking of dumping me, it's, your stomach's kind of pressing into me when we have sex. Like, yeah, can you do anything about this? And you can begin to see it. And why is that happening? Probably some really attractive guy is DMing her, engaging her, and then her DNA comes in and hijacks perception. Key here, the DNA, if you've ever read the book The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, comes in and the DNA hijacks the RAS. So check this out. DNA hijacks and manipulates RAS, to make the person believe it's in their favor to do this kind of shady thing. And this is why countries go to war against each other. Like, you know, Britain can go to war against Germany in World War II, and both sides believe that they are on the side of God, and both sides believes that they're the good guy 100%, and then they can rationalize physically killing each other and shooting each other, and it just makes sense in that moment, right? So you can see friends, they're the best of friends, and then all of a sudden, when it's convenient to the DNA to go against each other, now all of a sudden they fucking hate each other. Or maybe they like something about their friend, and that was like their cool quality that they had. Like, oh, maybe we're a little different. Yeah. But then all of a sudden it's like, those fucking differences are fucking bullshit. And the problem with this, what happens is that it promotes separation rather than promoting togetherness or coming together. Now, sometimes that RAS flip can actually help the person to kind of get out of a situation that they shouldn't be in, and it can also help them to stay mentally sane. Like, so for example, say you had a breakup, it's just too painful. It honestly just hurts too much. You can't cope with it. Well, now you get that RAS flip, it's like, well, fuck them anyway, because that's the only way that you can flip it. Now, funny enough, if I've had an ex, and say that I ask her friend, does she still talk about me? And say her friend's like, she fucking hates you. I'm like, okay, I can get her back if she hates me. But if she's like, oh, she wishes you the best, I'm like, oh, it's done. Yeah. Because if she's neutral towards me, she no longer requires an RAS flip to move on. But if she's still attached, then she needs the RAS flip to move on. Now, ideally, you could be present to the moment, take a situation for what it is, and just say, hey, that was kind of fun, it ended, and move on. But some people do need that kind of RAS flip, and you're gonna see this in your personal relationship. So whenever you see somebody and you're watching their selective focus, what they are focusing on and emphasizing in that relationship to you, when you're seeing it begin to shift, you know that that's the onset of an RAS flip. And likewise, when you see it in yourself, you're gonna notice in yourself. And again, track this. Track RAS. Track your opinions of things. I mean, we've even seen this when you had your media scandal, where people who like so many people who love us, we got this like, I mean, companies kicking ass at this point, all these people love us, and all of a sudden many people who supported us are going into the media like, oh, I hated them the entire time. The whole time I knew he's a dick, I knew he's an asshole. And we would read this about ourselves and we're like, whoa.
Like close friends too.
Close friends.
Really close, we're like, whoa.
It's really fucking trippy. And then later, because we came out on top, they come back and they're like, hey, had your back the entire time. And it got to the point where like I had to go to one of my main mentors and say like, how do I even handle this? And he goes, bro, it's just human nature. Don't get rid of all these people because you're gonna have to get rid of about 80% of your friends. What you should do instead is just make like a circle of trusted friends, and then make a circle of like associates who you can still hang out with, but you kind of just know that that will happen. And frankly, had I not done that, I would have had to eliminate about 80% of my friends. A lot of time people even say to me, oh, it must feel really good for your ego to have all these fans. And I'm like, well, I mean, it feels good to my ego when I see someone have a real transformation. I love that. But I've also experienced that whenever our reputation goes down, many of those people are very fickle and they're out of there. It doesn't matter you supported them for a decade or whatever.
People are fickle as shit.
It's just human nature. And the reason why is because there's not enough consciousness in the forefront of the mind to stop the biological processes of the DNA. Let me say that again. Okay, for the fucking cheap seats here, let me say that again. There is not enough consciousness, proactive consciousness, awakeness, presence at the forefront of the mind to be proactive and sort of supersede the RAS flip that is triggered by the DNA. And for that reason, people that are just less conscious, if you lose status, they're out of there. And that's why any Hollywood celebrity, they're gonna find out really quick when they lose their friends. Anybody who wasn't like their quote unquote real friend, well, what is a real friend? By one definition, just a definition, you could make many. It's somebody who has enough consciousness in the forefront that they proactively chose to be your friend, as opposed to that friendship being stimulated by status.
Yeah, and letting the RAS like control them versus being in control.
Yeah, probably about 80 to 90% of people are at the mercy of their RAS.
Yeah, but understanding this too, I mean, really helps not being so hurt by it, because it can be really confusing. You're like, what the fuck's happening? Why do they hate me? And you're like really hurt. But understand it's not really them. Once more, their mind has been hijacked and they had an RAS flip. Okay, and usually what you'll notice too is if you go through this RAS flip, which again, you shouldn't have to go through it. You don't have to make someone the enemy or a situation the enemy to leave it, to feel better about it. But usually later down the road, they'll come back and say they're kind of out of it, and they start noticing once more all the positive aspects. They'll come back or try to reminisce about old times and stuff like that. It's quite interesting.
It's also when the low vibration energy has dissolved.
Yeah.
And then you can come back into each other's lives, often in a lesser capacity. Who is your scapegoat? Who's your fucking scapegoat? Who's that person that you're using to bond with others by shit talking? And you'll really see this to where people, the way that they cement their bonds is being against something rather than being for something. And what's funny though, is that whenever a tribe or group is fueled by being against something, once that thing that they're against doesn't react, they wind up dissolving and attacking each other. And I used to see this back in the day. You'd see it, like, this is way back in the day. The community, the dating advice community for men, it was very divisive back in the day. And you would see these companies that would form and they would like trash RSD like all day. That's like all they would talk about all day to their clients, to each other. And if we didn't respond, you'd often see that that same trashing that they would do on us would turn, it would be like, bah, 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 and then it would turn inward. Because we didn't feed the low vibration energy, and then it would turn inward. And then I remember this one group, there's 4 of them, and then the 2 split into 2, and then they all went into 1, and then they just stopped. And remember that the purpose of low vibration energy is to take you down, how far down? All the fucking way down. So all those like disconnections and negativity is essentially the purpose of it is to mess them up. So you might even feel like, oh, it's kind of fun to fucking be a little shit talker and a little fucking dickhead. But eventually the consequences of it are that it winds up dragging you down in ways that you wouldn't anticipate.
Yeah. With the RES too, you're going to seek out people who reinforce that, and you got to be really careful in terms of surrounding yourself with yes men or yes women that'll reinforce beliefs, and it's like this constant feedback loop. And once more, that's like another trap you need to step out of. Like, surround yourself with people who challenge you, who challenge your ways of thinking, not who agree with everything you think and everything you say. And it's so easy to do that. You know, it's like, I don't like that person because they don't agree with this. I like this person because they always agree with that. I know people who literally only want fans around them. Not because they're famous, like no one knows them, but like friends, like friends who are fans. You know, it's like they love them, they just supplicate and just follow around to just keep reinforcing their ego and never having to question it. So look at the people you hang out with, look at all your friends and ask yourself, are they yes men, or do you have some people who, you know, disagree with you every once in a while and who actually say it?
What you'll see is that the human mind is always trying to conserve energy while maximizing value. So you want to get basically as much benefit as you can while doing the least amount of work, okay? Exerting the least amount of energy. And your reticular activation system, your selective focus, is going to continually trick you on this in ways that you couldn't believe. Let me give an example. I remember one time when I was first starting RSD, way back in the day, I said to a buddy of mine, you know, we're a very new company, we have no money, but if you do these 8 jobs, on the 9th one, I'll start paying you, and I'll pay you $50 a job. And I remember, this was one of the first times that I had ever seen this, but he went and did the work, and then at the end he said to me, okay, are you gonna pay me $400, the $50 a job times 8, because you said that you'd pay at the end of the 8. And this is really fucking crazy, okay? What I'm saying here, it's so fucking crazy, because what happens is our minds will hear things in ways that are bullshit in order to rationalize being lazy or to maximize benefit. And I mean, this goes really deep. Essentially, in any corporation, what you learn is that you've got to write everything down, because every single person at that meeting, what they're doing is they're memorizing that in a way that benefits themselves, at least for the most part. Not always, but very strongly for the most part. So say you have a meeting with, say, 4 or 5 people, and each person has their tasks that they get from it, or their pay that they're gonna get from it, or, you know, whatever resolution they got made. If you don't make a very detailed email of what was agreed on, reticular activation system right then and there will skew the entire thing.
And not just that, but every time you think back to it, it'll keep reinforcing it and skewing more and more and more.
Yeah, actually, that principle there is called every recall is a reframe. So if you're a very positive person, but something bad happens, every time that you pull out that memory, if you're in a positive mood, you reframe the memory as being more positive, and then you put it back in the memory bank. Then say later this bad thing, you pull it out when you're in a positive mood, you reframe it as more positive than it was, and you put it back in the memory bank. Meanwhile, if somebody's a very negative, angry person that care a lot of low vibration energy, they pull out a good memory, they spin it to the negative, and they put it back in the memory bank. And they'll do this every recall as a reframe thing over and over. Now, getting back to the laziness idea, realize that your mind is continually getting you to rationalize being lazy. Look, simple example from the other day. I'm up in the Hollywood Hills, back in Los Angeles, and I called in an order for a green juice, a ginger shot, and turmeric shot. Now, right at the end, I'm up in the hills, we have terrible reception, I'm driving down the hill, and they go to confirm the order. They're like, let me confirm the order. And I'm like, please, just put in the order. We're gonna lose reception. And they're like, ginger shot. I'm like, just confirm the order. We're gonna lose reception. Confirm. Ginger shot, turmeric, green juice. Ginger shot, turmeric, green juice. Confirm it, confirm it. And they can hear me. But then it clicks out. And I get to the juice place, and sure enough, I'm like, do we have the fucking green juice, turmeric shot, and ginger shot? Oh, no. Did you not hear me yelling to confirm it? Well, I wasn't sure if you're coming. Why did that happen? Because the human mind wants to save energy. And because they knew that technically speaking, that they didn't do the confirmation, even though I go into that juice place every fucking day for the most part, because of that, and because they want to save energy, they just scrapped the order. And then I had to wait there for like 15 minutes for them to make the order while I've got my kids there, by the way. My kids are fucking screaming and fucking the place up. Now let's go even deeper. In a bag, I had this bag with a whole bunch of expensive clothes that I want to shoot videos with. And there's probably about $4,000 or $5,000 in clothes in there. Now, when I was in the Uber, I'd planned for the Uber to stay on the side of the road, and I had the bag there. So I run inside, I find out that the order isn't met. Now, a couple things there. Really follow this, it's fucking key. Like massive self-awareness booster here. Right off the bat, when I left the bag in the Uber, deep down, I fucking knew they weren't gonna put in the fucking order. Not by any measure of common sense, because by any measure of common sense, they would have put in this fucking order. But because of what I know about reticular activation system, and that being consistent to laziness and how the human mind reacts, I knew that they wouldn't put in that order. So that being the case, why would I leave my bag in the Uber? Because the reason I left my bag in the Uber is that if I went in, grabbed the juice and went back out, then I'd rather leave my bag in the Uber. But I knew they're not gonna have it. But why do you think I left my bag in the Uber? Because I can save energy to leave the bag in the fucking Uber. Now from there, I have to run out, get the bag. I tell the Uber to go because I'm gonna have to wait 50 minutes. And what do? Can you guess? I put the bag down. Then I go back up to my crib in the hills, and I'm sitting there, it's like 10 at night. This place closed at 10, and I go, oh my fucking God, the fucking bag. Because, follow this, they were lazy at not putting in the order, because I didn't confirm it, even though I confirmed it like repeatedly, but just not by the little format they do. Then I was lazy by not calling them back when deep down I knew that they probably didn't get it. Because once I got to the bottom of the hill, I could have called them back at least before I got there. Then I was lazy for not bringing the bag. And then I was lazy because I forgot the fucking bag. The human mind is consistently trying to save time and energy and is fucking with you. But, and what you'll see even beyond that is that the human mind doesn't even want to change states. So a lot of the time it's that it doesn't want to change from a lazy state, a passive state, to an active state.
Yeah, I see this every seminar I do, like at the very end, just to kind of show and illustrate this. Everyone's sitting down, they're listening, and at the very end I'm like, you know what? Everyone stand up. And just for fun, for like 30 seconds, jump up and down, laugh, scream, let loose. And immediately you sense the resistance. Like imagine it, if you're watching this video here, wherever you are, and I ask you now, you know what? For 30 seconds, you're watching on your phone, your computer, stand up, jump up, down, scream. You're gonna be like, I'm good. You're gonna rationalize, I'm good enough, I don't feel like it, you know, that's a little too nerdy, like, I'll do it later.
Ask them to do it right now.
That's what I'm saying, do it right now.
Experiment right now.
Boom, yell.
Right now.
Ha ha!
Jump up
Loud.
and down. Do it right now. What are you seeing in yourself?
Did you do it? Did you?
There's like one or two guys like, I fucking did it, fuck you. But most people didn't do it.
Yeah, there's so much resistance. I see people at the back of the room like, I'm gonna sneak out now. And if you actually, and all the excuses too, it's like, no, because of this, because of this, because of this. Oh, you know what? They're trying to like trick me into jumping up and down. Oh, look stupid. I don't need to. I get it, etc., etc. But say you actually do it. Like you kind of push through that. You're like, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck my mind. I won't let it take over. And you do the jumping up and down. You change states. Suddenly, like your perception changes, and you don't want to go back to what you're feeling before. You're like, thank
Once you're active,
God. You know, I'm active now, this is crazy, and then your RS is gonna pick up on things to keep feeling this state here. Yeah.
And that's funny to think about, that while you're active, your RAS shifts, and all that you want to do is pick up on things to keep in motion.
Yep.
Whenever we do dating advice for guys, and we take guys out to bars and clubs to go talk to women, what you'll see is at first there's this huge resistance to do those first few interactions. The resistance is out of control. And your reticular activation system will look at any girl who they'd go and talk to, and what you'll see is like, oh, I can't go for this reason. I can't talk for that reason. She's too attractive, not attractive enough. She's with a guy, whatever it is. By the end of the night, that girl could be surrounded by 10 guys, and you're like, this is probably her gay squad. I'm gonna go in and talk because they'll love to meet me too. It's like when you're on the side of the beach and it's a little bit cold in the ocean and you don't want to get in, but once you get in, you don't want to get out. So be aware again, your mind is fooling you, not only with being lazy, but in shifting from a passive to an active state, and really shifting almost from any state. The funny thing is, once you're in a state, it's like you're a train on the train tracks. You're kind of just moving. You're in momentum with that state. That state has a momentum to it. And really, it's just the track shift to a different state that's hard. But once you shift to that different state, it's very easy. So when I was a kid, I remember like, I never knew this because I'm like 7 years old, and I'd have math homework, and I'd be watching these like sitcoms like Family Ties or Cheers, and I would know that I have to go do my math homework. And I would put it off and put it off and put it off and rationalize and rationalize. Finally, right before the time I'm supposed to go to bed, when I'm totally screwed if I don't do it, I would go and do it, and I would marvel at how I actually somewhat enjoyed doing, say, long division or multiplication or whatever it was. I didn't mind it. I was like, oh, I got that one. Oh, I got that one. And I'd be like, why did I wait so long? This wasn't even bad. Now that I'm doing it, it's actually kind of fun. Maybe, and in some ways more fun than even watching TV, because you feel accomplished, you feel like you're doing something. And as a kid, it would shock me why it was like that. But oftentimes, due to evolution, wanting to save time and effort, it's only when you have like no other choice at all that you finally do it last minute. And then once you actually are forced to shift that state, you're like, this wasn't that bad. And so part of being a conscious human being and not being your own worst enemy is knowing this about yourself. Like we said, self-assessing, becoming self-aware, the tool so that you can trust yourself, so that you can trust your thoughts. Recognize when you're kind of stuck in this loop, and you be that evolutionary force to shift yourself out of it, or hire a coach or get a friend or somebody to force you to shift yourself out of it.
Yeah, don't let that little voice, your mind, trick you into staying in that same state over and over. And to go even deeper on this, here we took different specific examples, but if you think about, say, the general state of your entire life, the situation you're in, the ceiling you keep bumping your head against, that is like the ultimate state change. You know, and that's like the big trap. I mean, the pits were just all in. You know, it's like not just the same day over and over, same thoughts, emotions, same little patterns. Like your life is like that.
So never underestimate just how deep this trap goes. And this video may seem long, it is long, but we've barely scratched the surface here. We haven't even got into unconscious social conditioning and beliefs that aren't yours that have been pounded into you, or things like the 25 cognitive biases, which you could look up and Google. I mean, this is a very, very broad topic, but you best believe that in many ways, your mind is not only your best friend, but also your worst enemy. And we want you to trust yourself. We're not trying to say don't trust yourself, but we're kind of saying don't trust yourself. But what we mean is become aware of how your mind works. Get the owner's manual. And we're giving you an outline of like our kind of version that we created of an owner's manual or things that we've researched, but ultimately you've got to create your own owner's manual. So these are ways that we learn to think, but I hope that what you really got out of it was that we have a process where we try to teach ourselves how to think and try to get an owner's manual for our minds, and we're trying to instill that in you. And don't just take what we said at point blank, but actually start tracking what your mind is doing. Use these as initial lenses through which to think about it, but ultimately you got to figure out your own to get to your goals, because your goals are not the same as our goals, not the same as somebody else's goals, so you've got to figure out what works for you. Ultimately though, just emphasizing how much your mind is a trap, how hard it is to get out of that trap. And anytime that you look at, say, a homeless person, that homeless person might live in a first world country, but ultimately they're still stuck in a trap of their mind. Somebody from, say, the inner city, they might be living in a first world country where there's all the opportunity in the world. They just cross a bridge. Maybe they go from like a ghetto outside of New York City to an awesome city like New York City. But the trap of the ghetto is not just the lack of financial resources, it's the lack of mental resources. It is the trap of the fucking mind. So what you want to do is become so incredibly self-aware of this trap. Look at the Groundhog Day that is your life, and just keep learning and taking reference experiences all the time. See the success barriers. See the addiction to certain emotions. See how your reticular activation system is tricking you. See how your DNA is tricking you. See how you're in this fucking maze that you may not be able to get out of unless you really track it, get around better influences, and start to begin to move up.
Yeah, and I'd even recommend writing this down right now. Like, start tracking it now, because the first trap you'll encounter is right after this video. Be like, I'll do this. And then your mind's gonna kick in, you don't need to write it down. You don't need to track it. You got this, put it aside. No, do it right now. You got the little momentum, okay? Like the clouds are parted, the water's parted, the sea's parted. Do it right now and really write it down because it forces you to be precise and make it real. A big trap is just thinking about it very vaguely and you'll never apply that. So actually make a list right now. Go over everything we told you to audit. You know, the people you hang out with, the things you experience the most, the thoughts you have when you're in different states, you know, different ways your RAS tricks you, patterns in your life, your emotional addictions.
The
write
web.
that
It's a
down.
fucking web.
Yeah, write it down now. It's a fucking maze. You're in a maze right now. You gotta come out, and the way out is through self-awareness.
What I'd say to you is if any of this sounds bizarre, right? Like you're sitting here hearing all this weird stuff. I get, hey, look, it's fucking weird to me too. But when I'm growing up as a kid and I'm like, why can't I just do what I'm supposed to do? Yeah. Why is my family all yelling at each other and hating each other? Why are my friends stabbing each other in the back? Why is the news filled with fucking war and famine? Why is it when I go to CNN.com, it's negative news, negative news, negative news, negative news? Why is almost every movie a bunch of fucking violence? Why do most of my friends relate by shit-talking each other? Why do most relationships that I see fall apart and go into fucking flames? Why is the divorce rate what it is? Why are most people living in this crazy affluence but can't get successful? So if any of this seems to you cartoonish, hey, look, maybe this wasn't the answer here. I don't know. This was to us. You've got to figure it out for yourself. But what I'd ask you is, if you think this is cartoonish, your fucking life is cartoonish. So wake up. Wake up. Start thinking about the trap that you're in, the energy that is being sucked away from your life, and how much, while there are other forces that are influencing you, ultimately it is on you, and you are allowing yourself to be pimped, and you are doing this to yourself. As a child, it wasn't your fault, but as a young adult and going into proper adulthood and maturity, it is your responsibility to take a mirror out, and while you may see everybody else in the world fucking up and doing this and that you can shit on, ultimately take that fucking mirror out, look yourself dead in the eye, see who you are, look deep into your fucking soul, get the right influences to decode your way out of this fucking maze, and rise to become the person who you are meant to be. Wake the fuck up. Trying to wake up. This is alarm clock. Fucking alarm clock. Wake up.
This is Julian, and welcome to Transformation Mastery.
It was fucking amazing.
This was huge for me. This was so important.
This gave me by far the greatest epiphanies I've ever had.
It just made me finally confront my deepest fears.
And we got like real deep, and I found some issues within myself. One of the best things I've seen so far in my life.
What you're about to experience going through this program is what completely changed my life on every single level. Okay, be it health, wealth, relationships, higher purpose, you name it. This is the stuff that finally produced that true, long-lasting personal transformation we're all after.